I wasn't planning on posting this, but the memory crawled back this week when a coworker mentioned the thunder cell that's supposed to roll over the Cascades tonight. So yeah, I guess I need to get it out before the weather app ping gives me a panic attack. I used to volunteer for the Forest Service on trail maintenance weekends, and after my shift in June 2023, I figured I'd save gas and pitch my little one-person tent on a spur ridge about 3 miles from the Ranger Road. The long view over the valley felt like a reward for roughing it solo. I mean, I'd camped alone plenty of times. Confidence is a weird debt you owe yourself after a breakup, right? Saturday afternoon was textbook PNW pine smell, drizzle teasing the moss, me trying to look capable with my jet boil. The cell coverage blinked out pretty much as soon as the service road dipped behind the first hill, but I'd already told my sister I'd text again Sunday morning. Routine. I spent the evening practicing stupid knot tricks I learned from YouTube and listening to a sports podcast I downloaded. Then, around dusk, the air flattened. Anyone who's been above treeline before a mountain storm knows that heavy hush, like the world takes a breath and decides you don't belong. The downpour hit just after 10. I cinched the rainfly and convinced myself the flapping was way louder inside than it was outside. At maybe 11:30, I heard what I first thought was distant thunder echoing off the basin, but it was too rhythmic. 3 cracks, pause, another 2, closer, like someone slogging through deadfall trying not to trip. My brain flipped through explanations. Elk. Another volunteer caught in the weather. The pitch of the storm killed any chance of a shout carrying, so I just lay there, counting footfalls until they stopped maybe 20 yards downslope. Silence can be louder than noise. I clicked off my headlamp so the glow wouldn't outline me, and opened the vestibule just an inch. Rain sheeted sideways across the beam of my flashlight, and for a heartbeat I thought I saw a figure. Not the profile itself, but the way the rain's trajectory bent around something standing still. Then, the next flash of lightning wiped it away. My phone showed no service, like it was mocking me. I closed the zipper and tried to breathe through my stomach the way my therapist taught me after the mugging last year. The footsteps resumed, but now circling. Wet pine needles muffled them except when a boot scuffed rock. My tent tunnel visioned. Every gust felt like a hand brushing fabric. I knew I couldn't outrun anyone in the dark with debris all over the slope. I also knew storms usually pass fast here, so I waited. I counted Mississippi seconds, 46 of them, before a new sound cut through. Metal scraping stone. Whoever it was had found the old fire ring. They were dragging something across it, maybe checking if coals were warm. I clenched my multi-tool until my palm stung. Idiot defense, but it was what I had. At some point, the rain eased enough that I could hear the person breathing. That was the worst part. Heavy, deliberate inhalations like they were syncing with me. Then the zipper at the foot of my tent twitched. Not ripped, tested. I kicked out hard on reflex and yelled, "Back off!" My voice cracked into the trees. The shape jolted away, crunching branches, and I scrambled out the opposite side, socks in mud, adrenaline doing the seeing for me. I bolted upward toward the ridge crest where I remembered a game trail splitting toward the service road. Branches slapped my face. I fell once and felt something slice my shin, but I kept moving. Behind me, sticks popped in pursuit. The flashlight danced. Twice I thought I'd lost the narrow dirt ribbon. Rain picked up again, because of course it did. At the ridge saddle I saw a flicker. Headlights. No, too far. But a recent blowdown had left the skyline naked. Lightning strobed and I finally spotted the reflector on the gated maintenance track, maybe a quarter-mile ahead. I made myself a promise. If I got to the gate, I'd never solo camp again, volunteer badge or not. The footsteps lagged as the incline mellowed, then vanished altogether. I didn't believe it. I kept sprint limping until I slammed into the metal beam. After catching breath, I climbed over, followed the track, and around the third bend, a county snowplow was parked with a tarp over its bed. No keys, but at least shelter. 10 minutes later, a Ranger truck's beams swung around the corner, high beams catching my mud-streaked face. Turns out the plow driver had radioed earlier that he saw a flashlight bobbing off trail during the storm and thought someone was hurt. They found boot prints around my tent, size 12. No tread pattern in the database. Nothing taken, no sign of tools. The ranger shrugged, said sometimes hunters get turned around. Sure. Except hunters usually say something when you yell at them. I ended up with 8 stitches and a tetanus booster. The medic called me lucky. I quit the volunteer roster that week. I still hike, but only with my dog and never farther than I can yell for help. And tonight, when the thunder hits the ridge across town, I know I'll pace until it passes, counting breaths and feeling for zippers. I'm typing this on my office laptop with the blinds half drawn, because even the thought of direct sunlight makes me sweat after what happened in Arkansas last July. My buddy Zach and I had decided to celebrate our comic book deal by road tripping from Denver to the Ozarks and holing up in one of those historic worker cabins the state park rents out. Think WPA shack. Single room, stone walls thick enough to cook you slowly. A ceiling fan that rattles like an old film projector. It was cheap, and the brochure bragged about a shaded swimming beach 15 minutes away, so we booked 5 nights. Trouble started before the key hit the lock. The ranger at check-in, name tag Davis, looked us over like he was measuring shelves and said, "Gonna be a scorcher. You boys scream if you need ice." I laughed, told him we'd brought 2 coolers. He chuckled back, 2 beats too late, and slid me a photocopied map with his cell number sharpied at the top. The heat wave slammed the valley that evening, 108 degrees Fahrenheit in the shade, asphalt shimmering like water. The park's power grid held, but cell service flickered. We killed time on the porch, playing cribbage and rationing ice like it was plasma. Around dusk, Davis rolled up in an electric cart stocked with bagged ice. "Marina's closed for the holiday," he said. "Figured you could use a top off." Zach, ever the coupon hunter, bought 2 bags at half price. That night, I couldn't sleep. The fan just pushed hot air in circles. I wandered outside around 2 a.m. to cool off. Halfway down the cabin loop, I spotted Davis's cart parked dark beside another empty unit. The driver's seat was empty, but the cabin door stood open a crack. I thought maybe he was dropping ice, until a beam of light cut across the doorway, coming from inside, not out. I left before he could spot me, chalking it up to maintenance. Day 2, little things were off. My phone charger rewound tighter than I ever wound it. Zach's deck of cards shuffled though we'd left mid-game. The cooler lid unlatched. Nothing missing, just touched. We blamed raccoons until I smelled cologne that neither of us owned. Something spicy, like Christmas candles. When I mentioned it, Zach shrugged. Maintenance guy probably popped in to check wiring. Sure. I texted my sister a quick update. No signal. That afternoon, we spent 5 hours at the river, then came back to find a Polaroid pinned to the cabin door with Zach's pocket knife. Photo showed us sleeping. Me on the porch, Zach inside the screen door. Timestamp, 1 hour, 13 minutes, and 47 seconds. We stared, gooseflesh prickling despite the heat. Zach wanted to storm the ranger office. I voted for the sheriff. Compromise. We'd pack at dawn. We spent the hottest part of the afternoon at the tiny county substation. Deputy Morales took the Polaroid, filed a report, promised extra patrols. He also praised Davis. "Good man, always watching out for dumb tourists." Translation, nothing would happen tonight. Back at the cabin, we double-latched the door, shoved a dresser in front of the window, and set an alarm to take turns sleeping. My shift ended at midnight. Zach took over. At 2 a.m., he shook me awake, finger to lips. The fan had stopped. Power outage. The cabin stank of melted plastic. Then wood groaned on the porch. Through a knothole in the wall, I saw a silhouette with a headlamp, twisting something against the breaker box mounted outside. A spark flared, and the headlamp turned straight toward the knothole, as if he knew I was watching. Fight or flight? Neither. We froze in mutual stare for maybe 2 breaths. Then, Zach flicked his flashlight against the metal bunk bed, making the loudest clang in recorded history. The headlamp jerked away. Footsteps pounded off the porch, and the distant whir of the cart motor broke the night. We didn't chase. We pulled the dresser away and bolted for the car, still in sandals. The sedan's AC never felt so good. We drove straight to the ranger station, but it was dark. Cell service returned on the highway, and we called 911. Morales met us back at the cabin 20 minutes later, with Davis in cuffs. They'd found a backpack in his cart containing 6 Polaroids of different campers, a pair of cabin master keys, and a tiny Bluetooth jammer that explained our dead phones. Davis kept repeating that he was just making sure no one died in the heat. Direct confrontation? Yeah. Ended with Zach's flashlight imprinting a dent in a bunk bed and a deputy's handcuffs clicking shut. The DA filed burglary and stalking charges. Court date this fall. Zach tore up the park brochure and swore off bargain lodging. As for me, I set my apartment AC to 80 degrees Fahrenheit all summer, because if the house is already hot, maybe I won't wake up sweating, wondering who's on the porch. Posting under a throwaway because the civil case drags on, but I need outside ears before the parole hearing next week starts eating my sleep again. 5 years ago, a guy impersonating a sheriff's deputy tried to kidnap my friends and me during a blackout at a lakeside campground. He served time, got out last month, and yesterday I received a blank postcard that just said, "Skillet still hot?" An inside phrase only he could know. This is how it started, and why I'm not sure locks matter anymore. August 2020, 3 of us, me, Lorna, and Gabe, hauled Gabe's vintage Airstream to Black Oak Primitive Campground in eastern Oklahoma. We'd just survived the bar exam and wanted 0 screens, 0 deadlines. We set up beside the boat ramp, grilled steaks, argued over movie trivia. Around 9 p.m., the entire state grid collapsed, later blamed on coordinated cyber sabotage. At the time, it just meant the marina lights blinked out, and the nearest town turned into a black ribbon across the lake. No cell towers, no ranger comms, nothing but frogs. At midnight, heavy boots crunched outside. A flashlight beam probed the porthole window, then a flat voice called, "Caleb, you in there?" None of us is Caleb. I cracked the door. A man stands there in khaki uniform pants, no patch, holding a printed surveillance still of a teenage graffiti tagger. He claimed the vandal had been seen entering our rig. I told him he had the wrong sight. His eyes were wrong, a fixed, glassy stare. And before I could shut the door, he jammed his boot in the gap. He yanked Gabe out by the collar, screaming that we were hiding Caleb. I grabbed the nearest object, an iron skillet still crusted with steak bits, and smashed his wrist. The flashlight went flying. Lorna pepper-sprayed him full in the face. He howled, but managed to slice Gabe's thigh with a folding knife before we shoved him out and locked the door. We used towels to stanch Gabe's bleeding. Calls to 911 failed. Grid down, remember? For 3 hours, he circled the trailer, running a fingernail across the aluminum siding, so we'd track his path. Every pass, he'd mutter, "Caleb ruined me. I'm taking someone with me." At dawn, we heard sirens. The National Guard mobilized for the blackout. Our stalker was gone. Guardsmen found his pickup submerged at the boat ramp 2 miles away. In the cab, duct tape, zip ties, a revolver, and dozens of Polaroids of random young men. He pled guilty to assault with a deadly weapon, blamed a psychotic break after his son Caleb overdosed. The judge gave him 9 years. We testified, did therapy, tried to convince ourselves it was over. Fast forward to 3 weeks ago. I'm now a junior partner commuting in suits I still feel like I borrowed. I check the mailbox and there's a postcard. No stamp, meaning hand-delivered. On the blank side, "Skillet still hot?" I shakily text Lorna. She's gotten one too. Gabe's postcard includes a zoomed photo of his scar, no caption. We file police reports. Detectives note the communication, but say it's not a direct threat. Yesterday evening, my neighborhood experienced a localized power outage. Just my house and the duplex next door. Coincidence, maybe. Then a 1970s pickup I'd never seen crawled past, backed into my driveway, idled. My phone finally had service. I dialed 911. Response time was 3 minutes. The pickup peeled out as the first cruiser turned the corner, bottoming out and sparks kissing asphalt. Police caught the driver 2 blocks away when he ran a red. Same guy. Pickup bed full of thrift store skillets, each labeled with one of our names in Sharpie. The arresting officer called it menacing, but technically not illegal. His parole officer filed a violation for crossing county lines without permission. The hearing is Monday. External intervention feels hollow when the system considers you a line item. He could be out again in weeks. I installed motion lights so bright they'd tan. Replaced the garage door opener with a mechanical bolt. Lorna added a second deadbolt. Gabe sleeps in the airstream behind a locked gate. My therapist says I should reclaim that campground memory somehow. Maybe camp there again with friends. I pretended to write that in my goals worksheet. Truth? I'm pricing condos in a high-rise with a staffed lobby because I'm done trusting that sirens always arrive in 3 minutes, or that skillets are enough. I'm supposed to be drafting a grant proposal right now, but my inbox just resurfaced an 8-year-old email chain tagged, "Welcome Ascent Crisis." And suddenly, the cursor feels like a countdown. If you were a freshman at Northfield University in 2017, and remember the outdoor orientation trip that blew up on social media? Yeah, I'm that Emily. Here's the part marketing never printed. Every August, the outdoor rec program buses about 100 incoming students Pine Gap State Forest for a 3-day, 2-night campout. Icebreakers, knot clinics, s'mores, the whole corny spread. I was a junior trip leader paired with Hector, a counseling grad intern, plus 8 freshmen. The bus left campus at noon in full daylight. Cameras rolling for admissions content. 15 minutes in, a group chat popped up on everyone's phones. Ascent Wild Ones. Normal enough. Then a burner number dumped a screenshot of what looked like me texting Hector. "Fresh meat on bus B, gonna test the tents." Gross implication I planned to sleep with freshmen. The bus erupted in laughter. I flagged the rec director riding shotgun. He promised to address it at camp. But cell signal lingered just enough for Reddit and Twitter to metastasize. By the time we reached the trailhead, a subreddit thread titled, "Faculty Approved Meat Market" had 400 upvotes. Hike to base camp took 3 hours. As I demonstrated barebag hangs, 2 freshmen whispered and snuck photos of me. When I confronted them, they claimed they were documenting potential misconduct for liability. Hector and I activated Plan B, separate tents by leader gender, all phones collected at night. Didn't matter. Someone used a satellite messenger at 2 a.m. to post another deepfake. My face spliced onto a lingerie selfie, captioned, "Trip Leader Perks." Likes climbed while we slept. Day 2 felt like camping on a lit stage. At the rappel station, I heard a drone whirring overhead, lens trained on me. Hector climbed a rock and smacked it with a paddle. It crashed into ferns. Inside the shell, a micro SD card labeled "One of Us." No one claimed ownership. The rec director hiked to the ranger station to call campus IT. By late afternoon, tweets claimed I'd been removed for predatory behavior. Parents started calling the emergency number on orientation packets. My professional credibility unraveled under the pines. After dinner, a storm penned us into the mess talk. Rain amplified every whisper. A freshman named Riley finally cracked. She'd joined a secret forum months earlier, where upperclassmen bet on orientation scandals. Members deepfaked leader messages in advance, earned points when local news picked up the drama. The motive? Tank the outdoor rec fee, which some seniors resented. The plan included hidden GoPros to catch reaction content. At dawn, we broke camp early, hiking out in silence. At the parking lot, a local news van waited, tipped off to leader misconduct. The rec director stonewalled while we loaded gear, but lenses caught every red-rimmed eye. Back on campus, IT traced the burner SIM to a prepaid phone bought with cash. The forum was hosted overseas. The university launched an investigation that fizzled once graduation scattered suspects. Official statement. Misunderstandings amplified by social media. Classes resumed. Jokes lingered. Students hummed tent test when they passed me. Hector quit counseling and moved to another state. I graduated but never worked outdoor ed again. Resolution? Ambiguous at best. The perpetrators vanished into LinkedIn jobs, while my LinkedIn endorsements all carry a faint scent of doubt. Every August, when Welcome Week emails hit my inbox, I delete them unread, pour a drink, and remind myself, a forest can feel more claustrophobic than any cubicle if enough strangers point cameras at you. I'm writing this from the motel ice machine alcove because walls feel too solid right now. If you ever plan a solo reset trip in the Mojave during the off-season, read this twice. I thought I knew the desert. 2 tours at Fort Irwin, and countless weekends mapping abandoned mines, yet last Tuesday reminded me the land keeps secrets. I'd taken a week off after a brutal breakup and driven my Tacoma to an unmarked BLM site past Baker. February nights are cold, days bright, and crowds non-existent. Permit issued, radio check good, extra water in the bed. I texted my sister a GPS pin via Garmin InReach and promised nightly check-ins. Then I lost the unit, set it on the tailgate while unloading, drove off to scout a viewpoint, realized 10 miles later. Sunset was dropping fast, so I made camp among basalt outcrops and planned to retrieve it at first light. At 0200, the wind slapped the tent awake. Forecast called for 10 mph gusts. Reality sounded like freight trains. I anchored guy lines, but the hiss of airborne grit drowned thought. Sandstorms can build static. Each grain colliding charges the air until it pops like distant tasers. Amid that crackle, I heard another sound. A low metallic rattling. Irregular, maybe 50 feet east. Not the flap of fabric. Deliberate, like someone dragging chain over rock. Curiosity lost to caution until the rattling circled. A silhouette pressed against the tent wall, fingertips tracing seams like reading braille. I yelled, but wind stole my voice. Whoever it was crouched and slit the rainfly near a stake. I slapped the spot. The figure vanished. My rational brain cycled possibilities. Scrapper, lost hiker, hallucination, none comforting. Decision, break camp. I crammed essentials into a compression sack, tied it to my chest, and crawled out the damaged door. Visibility was arm's length. I used the truck's remote beep to orient, clicking every few steps. Halfway there, my headlamp caught another human shape wrapped in a poncho liner, goggles on, holding chain that clinked with each step. He stood between me and the Tacoma. Training mantra kicked in. Movement beats confrontation. I killed the light and sidestepped into darker squall, circling wide through blind. Chain rattled behind, closing. I tripped on desert varnish and slid down a shallow wash. The chain paused above. I clicked the truck remote again. Lights flashed, horn chirped. The figure turned toward the glow. I crawled the opposite direction, popped up beside the passenger door, dove inside, slammed it. The figure swung chain against the window. Spider-webbed, but held. Engine turned first try. Thank you, Toyota reliability. I slammed into low 4x4, fishtailing onto the track. 10 minutes later, I burst out of the dust wall into starry calm. No headlights behind me. I didn't stop until Baker's neon motel sign flickered in the windshield. Sheriff took the report, shrugged. Off-season brings scavengers stripping copper from derelict pumps. Except copper thieves carry bolt cutters, not chain. And why slit my tent first? Next morning, the motel clerk handed me a padded envelope left at reception. Inside was the Garmin unit. Screen cracked, coordinates wiped, and a fresh scratch that traced the same spiral pattern I'd seen etched on an abandoned mine door months earlier. No note, no footage on lobby cams. Successful escape, sure, but my reset button, still jammed. I canceled my backcountry permit and drove home with blinds wide open, scanning mirrors for chain sparkle in every reflection. Writing this from a downtown coffee shop because fluorescent hotel lighting still messes with my head. My wife Lena swears journaling helps, so Reddit, here's the purge. Last month we spent our anniversary hiking Glacier National Park. County regulations imposed a dusk to dawn curfew thanks to record grizzly activity. Trailheads closed at 6 p.m. Guests expected back in lodging by 8. Fine by us, we're early dinner people. We booked the Timberline Inn, a 1920s lodge 10 miles from the gate. Giant beams, stone hearth, zero-cell reception, but decent Wi-Fi. Night 1, uneventful. Night 2, the hallway phone outside our door rang at 2 a.m. old rotary labeled House Line. I opened, lifted receiver. Silence, then controlled breathing. I blamed pranksters, hung up. Front desk claimed no calls were logged. House lines are inbound only. Next afternoon, we returned from hiking at 5 p.m. Our key card failed. Front desk scan showed we'd checked out at noon and turned in the key. Yet our luggage sat right inside when security let us in. Manager blamed software glitch. Curfew sirens sounded outside as rangers drove Main Street shouting, "Stay indoors." We locked up, but the hallway phone rang again at 9 p.m., pre-curfew. A low voice asked, "Why are you still here?" Calm, like reading a menu. I unplugged the phone. Lena, ever the empiricist, suggested my PTSD was flaring. Afghanistan flashbacks, faulty perception. I bit my tongue. Next day, she did a photography walk while I napped. I woke to find luggage rearranged. My meds pouch missing. Reception insisted housekeeping never entered. Lena returned saying a bellhop had told her I'd been medevaced. She laughed it off, but doubt pinched her smile. That evening, I mounted my GoPro facing the hallway. Midnight. Footsteps. Soft click of a keycard. Through the peephole, I saw the same bellhop sliding a note under the door. I flung it open. He froze, dropping a master keyring. I shouted. He mumbled wrong room excuses and bolted. Security escorted him to the office. Morning meeting with the manager. Apologies, comped breakfast. Claim bellhop was a temp hire. I asked to see CCTV. Privacy laws cited. Lena urged me to let it die. We drove to a lookout, argued half the way. On the return ride, her camera powered on by itself, flicked through new photos neither of us took. Shots of us sleeping, time-stamped during every curfew window. Back at the inn, we found county deputies out front. Bellhop had apparently jumped or been pushed from the staff dorm balcony. Critical condition. In his locker, my meds pouch, front desk logs showing false checkouts, and a spiral notebook titled Reset Guests, with room numbers and notes like Gaslighting Phase 2 and Phone Voice Good. He'd worked similar seasonal jobs at Yosemite and Acadia. Complaints followed, but never stuck. Deputies interviewed us until dawn. Motive murky. Experiment? Thrill? The sheriff guessed obsessive control disorder. Direct confrontation resolved? Technically, but closure feels overrated. We transferred to a chain motel in Kalispell. Bright lights, open lobby. Curfew lifted a week later, but whenever a landline rings, I feel that hallway close around me. Lena says we should still honeymoon in national parks. I'm researching city breaks with 24-hour desk staff instead. I didn't plan on posting this so soon, but the sheriff just called to say they found nothing but tire tracks, and I need to write while details are sharp. 3 buddies and I road tripped to watch the April total eclipse from the rural county fairgrounds that lets campers pitch tents for cheap. The place hasn't hosted a fair since 2012, barns boarded, midway rides rusting silhouettes, but the Chamber of Commerce figured eclipse fever would revive it for a weekend. We arrived Thursday, claimed a patch near the old Ferris wheel, maybe 20 other tents scattered. First, weird note. A paper flyer tucked under windshield wipers, black ink on newsprint. Night watch begins at moonrise. Stay inside the circle. I assumed local cosplayers promoting an event. Friday, we explored abandoned livestock pens. My friend Noor, a geology grad, pointed out fresh chalk symbols on the concrete. Spirals around a crude eye. Night fell. Stars insane without city glow. A group of maybe 10 robed figures marched between barns, lanterns swinging. They weren't staff. The volunteer gate kid was busy watching TikTok. We chalked it up to LARPing cult aesthetics. Saturday, we chased food truck rumors in town. On return, our tent stakes were reset, forming a perfect circle 20 feet wider. A rope perimeter with prayer flags surrounded the new boundary. At dusk, a woman in plain clothes, looked like a junior high teacher, approached, asked if we'd taken the vow. When we laughed, she laid a river stone in my palm, etched with the same eye symbol. "Keep inside after the call," she said, then joined the robed lot heading toward the livestock arena. We considered packing up, but the eclipse hype anchored us. Midnight, a bell tolled from the arena. Makeshift iron triangle hit with a mallet. The robed group chanted. Drones rose overhead, projecting blue lasers that traced a larger spiral across fairground fences. Then silence. My friend Mateo, videographer, sneaked closer with his gimbal. He slipped inside a gap in barn siding. 10 minutes later, his comm mic crackled with scared breathing. He whispered, "They're all standing around a pit, something inside moving." Then static. We texted, no reply. We debated calling 911, but cell service garbled. Noor and I grabbed headlamps, followed the gap. Inside, smell of ozone and compost. The robed people stood in concentric rings, peering into a concrete cistern. No pit occupant visible. Mateo nowhere. Suddenly, every lantern extinguished, leaving only our headlamps. The nearest robed figure snarled, lunged. We bolted, bursting into moonlight. Back at camp, third friend Jonas had flagged down the volunteer gate kid who radioed county deputies about possible kidnapping. 10 minutes felt like hours until cruiser lights bounced across weed rows. Deputies swept the arena, found nothing but chalk marks and a still-warm generator powering drones. Mateo's gear lay smashed, memory card missing. Dogs tracked his scent to the parking loop, then lost it at tire ruts leading to highway. Sun rose. Eclipse Day should have buzzed, but campers left in haste, many receiving similar flyers. By noon, the fairground was almost empty. Sheriff declared the event a publicity stunt gone wrong. They issued alert for a rented white van spotted on surveillance leaving before dawn. Plates stolen. External intervention, sure, yet no resolution. Time jumped to 2 nights ago. Jonas got an email from a throwaway address with a single attachment. Drone footage showing us asleep in tents. Timestamp 3:14 a.m., hours before Mateo vanished. Overlaid text read, "Inside the circle, you were spared." Sheriff's cyber unit, tracing. I keep the stone on my desk, eye etched deep. Maybe to remind me that unexplained doesn't mean unreal. Eclipse photos on my phone feel tainted, and I don't know if I'm mourning a friend or waiting for another call saying they found him. Or worse, found the circle again somewhere else.